Hey, Blue Rockers, welcome to Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis. I'm Connie Willis, and this is Crypto Connie. Blue Rock Talk is Earth's most interesting conversations. That includes people, places, and things. And tonight, like I said, Crypto Connie. Good stuff coming up. Lots of cool adventures to tell you about. And of course, Stan's Clues Part 2. I keep thinking it's Stan's Blue Clues. Remember, what is it, Blue's Clues? That big old dog. I should have had a picture of that. Stan is far from a dog, that's for sure. But tonight is the second half of him revealing the clues. Those of you new to us, I hope that you enjoy the show. Please subscribe if you have not already. And remember to hit that notification bell, because when you guys say, oh, I didn't get notified, you got to hit that bell. And I think sometimes it even allows you to say how often you want it, I think. Now, we are broadcasting live on a multiple of platforms, DLive, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Those platforms are Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis, and also Connie Willis. And yes, there is another Connie Willis out there. She's a sci-fi novelist. She is the female Stephen King, or let's say he is the male Connie Willis. But that is not me. Thank you for the letters that you send me. They're very nice, but they are not for me. I'm not the novelist at all. I hate writing. She may not like cameras, I don't know, but I hate writing, so maybe she and I both fill in for each other where the other person doesn't like that area. I don't know. Maybe she does like all that. She makes appearances all the time, but that's not me. I will be back on Coast to Coast soon. I think it's October 9th, so I hope you guys will join me. And again, those of you that are new, if you do subscribe, you are a Blue Rocker. A Blue Rocker is someone in the know. And we have like Crypto Connie Tuesday. All these shows in the evening are 9 p.m. Eastern across the board. Coming soon, Wasted Wednesdays. That's a serious look at the cannabis industry. Holy cow, have I learned more than I ever thought I would by studying up for that and getting ready for you. Thursdays, Far Out Thursday. That's our signature night. That's when Blue Rock Talk originally began, and that's where we talk about far out things, but always very interesting for sure. And then Bigfoot Fridays, that's all about serious researchers and witnesses. And then Stan's Bible Lecture on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And of course, in between, any break-ins, any live stuff going on, maybe I'm walking a trail, maybe I'm out doing this or that. Pretty soon, I've got to do something with my tower garden, my hydro garden that I've got going on, that I'm working on. I'm making little seedlings right now, but I've been working on my little tower garden today to get all the little chemicals right in it, and then it's just water goes through and you can grow all these vegetables in your house. It's cool. I'm so excited. So that'll be, coming soon, so you can see pieces here and pieces there of it. I'm absolutely amazed at it, and it was a genius who put that together, and I'm so happy to be able to partake in it. So I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for all the comments that you give me and pass on to me throughout. It's funny that some of you look at some of the very, back archive shows that have happened, which thank you very much. I appreciate that. But it's funny, some of the stuff from long ago with some of the audio problems. Some of you think that none of us knew about those. And you're like, oh, the sound, you got to fix the sound. It's like, read the description box. Read the description box. We know it. That was 3 years ago. Anyway, speaking of description box, make sure you take a look at that, because it has links to crypto schools for you. It has links to Quint. It has links to all sorts of crypto areas to go to. Of course, we'll be talking with Stan Larimer. It's got links to talk with him and find where he is. Links to Steam It. And, I got to add my Whale Shares link to that. So I'm on Whale Shares. I have not done my initial intro to it, but I will. I was a part of their beta, I thought, but then everything new had to happen. So I'm not officially on there yet, and I also got to get Stan's information on there too. And I definitely need to get on there Michael X's information as well. Now, you've heard me talk about Michael X from time to time, and you've seen him on here too. I met him in person, and it was great because we got to know each other a whole lot better and a whole lot more. And you're going to see him more here on Crypto Connie, okay? What a genius. What a mind he's got. And it not only thinks fast, but his body does too. You can ask him some questions. He'll spit out the answers real fast. And as you're still trying to comprehend the first one, he's already hit, like the bathroom or something. I remember at one time going, where'd you go? And I think it was Stan that said I was like, did he go to the bathroom? And I think he said, yeah, he's in the bathroom. I'm like, I didn't even understand what he said yet. It's just boom, boom, boom. He's just ahead of the game. He's totally ahead of the game. And that's great when he's a partner of yours. So let's move on to the show tonight. We'll say a quick hello to Stan Larimer, the godfather of BitShares. And we'll also, kind of fill you in on what we've just been doing. Then we're going to get to the clues, the last clues of what's going on here. So let me see if I can bring up this dude. See what's going on with Stan Larimer, the godfather of BitShares. There he is. Hey, Stan, yay! That's the Muppet sound every time I do that, yay. From the very beginning of even knowing you. And that's so funny that you're a big fan of them, too. So how are you?
Oh, real good. I'm just one of those old guys up in the balcony throwing insults down.
The two old guys. Now you're calling yourself an old guy.
Yeah, compared to the young whippersnappers I play volleyball with, I am. And, it's kind of interesting when we're playing volleyball. We usually split up if it's just a scrimmage, put all the young people at Virginia Tech on one side and several of us old farts over on the other side. And, we win more often than we lose because we play dirty.
Did you play tonight?
No, tomorrow night.
Okay. Oh, okay. So we don't have to worry about that on Crypto Connie Tuesday.
Not for this season, anyway.
Okay. Yay, yay. But we do want to hear about how it goes. It'd be great to get some video of you with all the girls. Are you the only guy on the team? No. We got 3 old guys and then several volley babes that come over and play. Volley babes, I love it. Good for them. Well, let's make sure everybody's on. Hi, everybody. I hope that you guys can hear us well and all is good. So, thank you very much. Dr. Mulder's in there. Says my hair looks good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Coiffed. So I guess everybody's hearing everything okay. That's cool. Let me know otherwise, everybody. While you are here, hit that like button. Hit that like button. Thank you very much that you do. And those of you that want to donate, thank you. I so love going in there in my BitShares wallet and seeing donations. Thank you so kindly. It's such a nice little surprise. Thank you. But my favorites are down below, so add those if you'd like to continue doing that. Thank you so much. It's so much fun. It is. It's like a little treat, something you get in your stocking. You know what I'm saying, Stan? It's really nice when that happens. Don't you think, Stan? Don't you think that's cool?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Now, before we get on to Stan's clues, Stan and I actually got to meet in person too. Just, oops, I got something flashing over here. Let's make sure we are on. I got to meet Stan in person. Now, Stan, I'm going to let you take over for a minute because I just want to make sure we're on over here. Okay. I'm seeing something weird happen, so I'm going to let you.
Okay. Oh, man, this is my big chance to take over the show. And we're going to rename it to Stupendous Stan Tuesdays or something. Yeah. First things first, while I've got control of the horizontal and the vertical. But, we went out and spent some time in Salt Lake City, which is one of our hubs of activity. Michael came down and Connie flew over. And I landed in the midst, and we all got into Michael's all-terrain vehicle and drove down to Moab, which is down near Grand Junction, just about as far southeast as you can go and still be in Utah. So we were down there, had one major meeting with some new associates that Connie introduced us to, and sort of in an offsite type of environment led to the formation of a new company, which we'll be talking about in the upcoming weeks in terms of what that does. But of course, that's what we spend most of our time doing, is building companies that take advantage of the BitShares dynasty of platforms. And so that we had a successful addition to the growing zoo of new startups that we've got going. And in the process, we had a little time off to go rock climbing. And, I think Connie may have made a UFO believer out of me once some of the things we saw out there in the boonies. Michael found them for us, and when we looked at them, we said, I don't know why they would draw something like that back in the Stone Age unless they'd seen something like that. But maybe it's fiction, just like this show. I don't know.
That is true, what you were talking about. I want to make sure, I'm going to make sure that we can be heard here. I want to show people some of our pictures from there. So, so let me put this over here, and you'll see all three of us. We're going to do. Okay, hold on, Stan. Let's get us both on there. Make sure everybody is seen and heard as we show these. Why, I got your big old mug on there. Let's get, there we go.
It's what everybody wants to see. Stan with his mouth shut.
Let's see if we're talking now. Now say something there, Stan.
There we go. That's not me in the middle.
There we go. We're now everybody should be hearing all of that. So now it should be back with all of our pictures. So that's how I'll have to do our pictures. Sorry, you're going to see us in the background, but it is what it is. So let's do that way. All right. So. Yeah, so Stan, there's Stan, myself, and Michael X. And what were you saying about Michael?
Oh, I never say anything about Michael. But he defies explanation. But sitting there in the background is a big set of mountains that we went walking off into and exploring. On some of those vertical faces, we saw some interesting things. So I imagine you've probably got a picture or two of them to share.
We do have those. Here's another shot of Michael, so you will know who you'll be seeing more often here on Crypto Connie and Blue Rock Talk. I think that's a selfie he did. And just to keep Michael going there's more Michael.
Oh, this is the all Michael all the time show.
And there, of course, we have the Blue Rocker sign up. And there's Michael and me. That was in Moab, and we were about to take on the trail there, I think. Or we had just gotten there. That was the first night, because that's where I have the fried juice on me. This is inside the house that we stayed, right? Stan, wonderful place, making a salad, getting ready for the first night. We had an incredible salad and delicious steak and plentiful of wine or whatever, and unbelievable conversation.
Yeah, they had a table the size of the round table in Camelot there, and we were all sitting around it for hours, just regaling each other with different stories and philosophies and stuff. Just a lot of people with a lot of good thoughts in common. And we were nice to each other while we were at it.
Everybody was very nice. There's Michael pointing up to some really crazy pictures there that were up on the rocks.
Yeah, that was one spooky rock face, I'll tell you.
That's right, micro petroglyphs, really cool things. Everybody was pretty good with the camera. Stan was good with the camera, and Mike was good with the camera. Michael and myself all taking pictures and movies. So we are going to be putting something together. So don't worry about that. You're going to see some really neat video at one point here. Stan snagged that one.
This is where Connie went on a sit-down strike, climbing back up out of the mountains. She says, "I'm not going any further. I'm sitting down right here."
Oh man, I felt bad. I'm not a morning person, and we did this in the morning time. So taking a look at some of the petroglyphs there. This is what Michael found, and then we went up there the next day after Michael found that himself. Let's see here. And this is Stan. I got a picture of Stan taking a picture of the, that's the big alien up top, which to me looked like a UFO, above a saucer shape, and then an alien underneath it. At least that's what I thought I saw.
Yeah, I thought it was the Cat in the Hat, so there was some discrepancy as to what it was we were seeing. But there were things being drawn there that didn't look human, that's for sure.
Try to get a closer shot of it for you here. You see it up there. I'm going to try to even do better and get even closer. Yeah, here's an even closer shot of it. And again, like I said, we will do a video on this. There's a little bit closer. I mean, you can even kind of see it as another way, where it is totally looks like a gray.
Yeah, sitting down there in the middle of that blob, just slightly off center to the left. If you look at that real closely, there is a creature there that just doesn't look right.
It doesn't. Okay, there's Stan the Man doing the...
You'll notice Connie's shadow on my leg, so obviously being cued to do this.
It was not just being cued, but I when I saw the shadow of it, I thought, oh, I had to carefully place it because it would have been R-rated otherwise. So I had to make sure it was okay, and I did that for sure. So there's Stan with that beautiful background, and that beautiful background that you see is where those petroglyphs are. And here, even though it is very, very, very bright, you can see Stan taking a look at where the sun has just, I mean, the colors you couldn't believe, but you can see there where the sun has made it gold. It is a little bright, but I mean, there's blue sky outside of there, but that's Stan taking a look out there from the house. Just a gorgeous place. And if Warren's watching and he sees this, then thank you again. Got you again, Stan.
Man, enough pictures of me.
No, there's more. I think there's one more petroglyph here we'll show. And, oh yeah, this is where you can see some of those critters there. Right, you see that?
Yeah, it looked like elk or some type of four-legged creature there. But, you know, the interesting thing about that is they appear to be drawing things they see in the neighborhood. And some of them are ordinary animals you would expect to be there, and some are extraordinary creatures.
They are, and not... and you can also see where I think Michael had a good idea, where maybe we didn't know if they were trying to mark time or maybe they were sharpening their drawing materials or their spears. Lots of markings like that deep into everything. And then one last picture here. Let me see if I can crop it a little better. So the question is, does a bear poop in the woods, or does Stan do it around rocks? I don't know. Just saying. Just saying.
She was trying to get me to go back into that cave, and I just decided that that was far enough. Kind of cobwebs all over the top of the cave going back into it. So, but it was kind of neat. Obviously, there were leaves on the ground there. Somebody had apparently slept there at some time. Rolled out their sleeping bag on a pile of leaves, I guess.
Yeah, that was pretty cool stuff. That was very interesting. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Stan, once again for, being able to. I mean, we all pulled that together, all of us, didn't we? We all made that happen. It was a great week. It was wonderful. And let me tell you, between Moab and Salt Lake City, those of you that have never taken that drive, take that drive. Gorgeous, gorgeous, and totally. If you got to see Stan's Bible lecture and you saw the Noah's flood film that we got to show, it describes those layers of rock that we saw, right, Stan? I mean, we were getting to see what we saw in that video. Yeah,
things happen for a reason. I just out of the blue decided to do that particular lesson. Don't know why, but when I get the urge, I follow it, assuming that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And we had quite an education, and then we got to go on a field trip to see it in action. And it was really amazing watching the layers that were piled up and then carved out.
That was really cool. So let's see where we're at here, making sure we're live everywhere. Okay. All right. So Mike Crow, I'm hearing crickets, and you're right. They're at Stan's place.
Yeah, since Connie was concerned about the country flavor going on here. This is country music. This is the real country music, hearing crickets at night when you're sleeping. So I put up a couple books behind me here that just sort of give the general flavor that one of the things we do here at Half Mile High Meadows is basic country skills, gardening and everything that you can imagine, permaculture and that kind of thing. I've always sort of admired George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and some of the founding fathers, how they dabbled in so many different things, and I do that too.
You do. All right. Well, we had a great time meeting each other. We had some neat things that happened that we will tell you more about in the future. But currently, we need to get down to the business of Stan's Bazillion Clues Part 2. So are you ready to do it?
Yeah, and this has been foreseen and long prophesied that this particular night would come. Coming up this weekend is Amsterdam, when we'll make the formal announcement, but they're only going to give me 15 minutes, so it's going to be abbreviated in just the facts, ma'am. And so you folks here are going to learn far more than the folks over there about stuff, because you've managed to put up with us all this time and watching Connie's slideshow and everything else that's going on here. So you deserve to have a little bit more detail and a little bit in advance. So tonight, while covering the clues, we're going to cover in detail other things that I will rush through over there in Amsterdam as a formal presentation for 15 minutes before the group of BitShareans that are assembled there.
Well, I'm going to let you take it away here, and I'll be your little producer as you do your slides, and everybody, I'll be back. I'll be watching for your questions. You can ask questions. I prefer you do it a little later, because that way I can see them all, because then I'm going to lose them, right? So we are broadcasting live on DLive, DTube. No, DTube's not live. DLive, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the Blue Rock Talk and Connie Willis platforms. So the best place for the live chat is on YouTube, and I will be switching back with DLive as well. So that's where you can ask your questions. Put them in all caps so I can see them. So let's move on with Stan the Man. And hopefully, if there's any problems, just let me know, everybody.
Okay, I guess let's just jump right into it. We're going to look at slides with the clues on them. And I'm going to tell you, what was going through my mind as I wrote those clues, and what they were supposed to mean for those of you who've been pondering what I was talking about. So, bring it on, Connie. Okay, first I've got to state that this show is pure science fiction. It's for entertainment only. I'm not talking about the real world. I don't dare talk about the real world because our government has decided that their way of treating our industry is to look closely at everything we say for anything that might be considered to be a false statement and then put us in jail for life. And since that seems to be the strategy they are using unethically and abusing their power, I am not going to go there. I'm not going to talk about the real world anymore. I'm going to hide into my little fictitious world here, because it turns out that I can talk about all my ideas just as easily in a fictional universe as I can in the real world. Keep in mind that parallel universes, the whole theory of a parallel universe is there's an infinite number of them, and every time you deviate in one little fact, you generate a whole new parallel universe, which is just like the other one, except for the slight deviation. And in fact, some would say every one of us, when we make every decision in our lives, spins off a parallel universe based on every fork in the road we come to. And so which one is the true universe and which one is just a parallel universe? Well, it depends on where you are, what decisions you've made. And it may well be that all of the universes are real in some sense, but only one is real in the timeline you're on, and everything else is merely a possibility, something that could have been, except for some action somebody took that made one little deviation in the facts that make up that universe. So as I talk, I'm going to be generating alternative universes at a rapid pace here tonight. And do not assume that I'm in the same universe as you are. I'm a fictitious character right here. There is a Stan Larimer just like me in your universe, except for slight differences that is what makes the universe spin off. So with that, I will boldly go into my clues tonight, but keep in mind, these clues don't apply to your universe. They apply to my fictitious universe, and they paint a picture of my vision for how I would like to see things turn out. But every time one of you, twitches a little bit or makes any changes, you're spinning off parallel universes that take things away from my vision. And there are other people out there doing deliberate actions to spin off parallel universes that are different from my vision. And I may change my mind and my vision. So do not assume that anything that I'm talking about here applies to any universe you are likely to live in the future. So this is the kind of disclaimer that I have to read every time now, because our government forces us to take these draconian efforts in order to protect ourselves from an accidental mistake that could put us in jail for life. So this show is a work of fiction. It refers to things in an alternate universe far in the future, or a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It is possible that somebody someday may attempt to build something like this, but until they do, it does not exist and probably never will exist in anywhere near the form this show presents it. Any white papers, articles, interviews, press releases, or other forms of free expression about the subject of this show are necessarily also fictitious, or speculation about a work of fiction. No one should invest in any such work of fiction, though in whole or in part, believing it to be true or likely to become true in their lifetimes. All discussions of the ideas, concepts, visions, and dreams about this topic are for entertainment purposes only, and Americans are expressly forbidden from watching this show, hearing or thinking about it, or discussing it in any form, public or private, because their government is likely to penalize them for doing it. Okay, so much for that. Obviously, this being a fictitious work, the statements made about what the government is or does is also a parallel universe, and may or may not apply to the universe you find yourself or believe yourself to live in. And with that long-winded thing, sorry about that, but I got to do it because we're just living in that type of world in this universe. Okay, clue number 35, which is where we left off last week. It's coming out of the book of Revelation. probably Revelation chapter 6 is talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Well, these four horsemen I'm talking about are not evil catastrophes. They are the opposite of that. They are new horizons of new possibilities for us to regain the freedom that has been stolen from us by the deep state. And so each of these that I'm talking about is envisioned as being a way forward in my fictional universe for dealing with the type of anti-freedom activity that is going on in this particular fictitious universe. So when the first seal was open, I looked, and behold, there before me was a white horse. And the rider turned to the west and rode off along the rivers of EOS to seize great power and agility among kingdoms of men. Okay, so first thing you're going to notice about all this is that these riders turn in four different directions and ride off, each one pursuing freedom in a different way. And so in this particular case, along the rivers of EOS is probably a pretty obvious reference to the fact that one of the four horsemen is seeking improvements by using what Dan Larimer has produced with Block 1 in the EOS universe. And in fact, throughout the period of time that we've been doing these clues, I've been talking about different directions of the four horsemen. We've never really delved into just exactly what role EOS has to play. But tonight, we're going to go into that in great detail. Some of the other horsemen we've featured in the past, and we'll feature again in the future. But for right now, the white horse is going to be prominent for the rest of this month. Next, a second seal was opened, and another horse came out, a fiery red one. And behold, its rider turned to the east and rode off to gather the legacy chains and decentralize the web of the beast. And of course, we've revealed that that particular horse is in fact Jared. And he has been doing amazing work, generating all kinds of new ideas for a decentralized, distributed web. And by web of the beast, of course, we're talking about the fact that the beast in the Bible is a one world government, the final one world government that persecutes Christians nearly to death before Jesus comes back and destroys it. And the web of the beast is all of the control tools that the one world government is putting in place that turn it into a prison planet where everybody's every thought can be monitored, every action can be tracked, and every deed reprimanded in order to maintain total world control. Just as the Bible had prophesied that would happen, we are now entering the end time where we see it being built in front of us as we go along. So certainly one way to do that is to get rid of some of those tools that allow the beast to suppress free speech, to shut down websites quietly behind the scenes. Mysteriously, a website that's been up suddenly goes down and you don't know why. And with it, you lose all of the material that you had on that particular site. Who's doing that? Who has the power to make that happen? Well, whoever is doing that has too much power and they abuse it. And the idea of decentralizing the web means getting rid of those places where power abusers can insert their fingers in and muck up your freedom and your right to express yourself any way you want. So you've heard on previous shows here about that, and we'll come back to that later, but no more on that particular case tonight, although there are incredible progress going on there, despite the fact that Jared finds himself under continuous duress from the beast. He is still being more innovative and productive than anybody I've ever seen being able to work under that pressure. Enough on that for now. Clue 37 was a brief intermission from the Four Horsemen, long enough to point out that he who has Crypto's Connie's show has extra clues. He who has not Crypto Connie's show shall not see those clues, for Stan's blackout remains upon them. Remember that we're trying to create an environment here where nobody dares wade in to hear where people freely express their faith, especially their Christian faith, and where people talk about things that are not approved speech. So certainly the conversations we have on here, which are, they're not intended to be brief, they're intended to be giving people deep insight into what we're thinking and so on. And so we thought we would embed a few clues into the show, and tonight is no exception, because when you come out of this, you will be completely up to date and ahead of everybody who's going to have to wait till Amsterdam or Sao Paulo to hear the Cliff Notes version of this. So those of you who are here tonight and enduring me talking will get a reward. Next. Okay, let's bring us back to the third horseman. When the third seal was opened, I looked, and there before me was a black horse. And behold, its riders turned to the north and climbed a rising trail till it vanished into the clouds like a stealthy ghost rider in the sky. And this, of course, was a reference to Sean and his CloudCoin technologies, his RADA technologies, which are ways of recognizing counterfeit objects, which can be used for currencies or a whole lot more. And we've had him on the show too. The things that are neat about his currencies is that you can exchange them without a blockchain, just email them to somebody or hand them to somebody. And so it forms a different type of very private currency that is the digital equivalent of cash, more so than even Bitcoin, because it can vanish into the clouds as it goes along and allow you to have totally private transactions, interactions with people. So I recognize that as another one of 4 cures to the invasions of our privacy that are currently being built in the caves that's built around us right now. Next. Okay, Connie's supposed to holler out the clue number.
Oh, I am?
Yeah.
Number 39.
There! That's just so everybody knows Connie's still with us. Okay, when the 4th seal was opened, and I looked, and there before me was a pale horse, and behold, its rider turned to the south and vanished off the grid. Didn't leave nothing but a smile, which, of course, is a little bit of a cross between the Cheshire Cat and Ray Stevens' The Streak. But the idea is that this particular technology found in Stealth Grid is another technology that I found out about that is very interesting. You may remember a few weeks ago, I went out and participated with Sean in a golf tournament. And at that time, Larry Castro, the proprietor of that technology, was talking about a new set of cell phones that have been, had the innards replaced, the opposite rating system replaced, and now work in a way that does not use the normal phone networks, but allows an ad hoc grid to be used in order to communicate and to transmit currencies. So once again, and so that's the 4th seal, and that there'll probably be a lot more, right? Because necessity is the mother of invention. And when everybody looks around and sees a cage being built around them, people start to innovate around that. So there are hundreds of innovators out there, and for every innovator that gets taken down on trumped up charges, there will be other innovators to pop up and take their place, because the kind of things that are being done to us right now would have outraged our founding fathers. Go read the Declaration of Independence sometime. After that famous preamble and before the famous ending, there's a whole list of things King George III of England was doing that were just outraging the colonists and making them yearn for freedom and ultimately hold the great American Revolution. Well, guess what? The things that are happening right now would make King George III blush, because they are so far gone beyond what King George was doing to cause the American Revolution. And I think the people who swore to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States ought to be utterly ashamed of themselves that they've gotten themselves into a position where they are doing worse things than King George was doing back when they wrote the Declaration of Independence. Shame on you. I know you're watching, looking for any little thing I say wrong, but keep in mind this is all fiction. I'm talking about my fictional universe, which has some similarities to yours, but it's not the same thing. Okay, next.
Clue number 40.
The four horsemen of BitShares rode out together, each engineering sovereignty in different but complementary ways. And, in the Constitution or in the Declaration of Independence, it says, whenever a government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. And certainly one of the peaceful ways of doing that is to create insanely great technology and give it away. Hope it goes viral and gives people the tools to take back their freedom. And so that's basically what these were about, to say that this is not taking place in a vacuum. Certainly the thing that has a lot of my attention is something that we've called BitShares EOS. We're talking about that tonight and as we travel next week. But these four horsemen together are all building things that I think will be a piece of the solution to the current growth of the beast in this world, or in my fictitious world anyway. Next.
Number 41. Woo!
Those of you who just joined us, keep in mind that what I'm doing here is basically having a little fun by giving clues about what the future universe I would like to see happen. Whether it happens or not, no one can know. But these are Bible verses that I have repurposed as we go along in a way to, I'll admit I have a nefarious purpose. I would love to spread more knowledge about the Bible, and if I can embed a clue that causes people to not only figure out the vision that I've been espousing as we go along, but also learn about the precious information that's in the Bible, then I get a twofer out of everything I do. As I've said, my primary mission, occupation is evangelist. Evangelist for Jesus and evangelist for BitShares, in that order. So again, the future of BitShares is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who, when he found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Okay, so it was just something to indicate that what we are going to reveal here, I think, is a pearl of great price. And those who find it, should be at least investing the time to understand what it is, and then be watching for it if it should show up in a parallel universe near you. Next.
Number 42. Clue number 42.
I love this. The phrase you've probably heard is, cast your bread upon the water and it will return to you. But the actual translation I found here was so darn capitalist and so representative of our industry, and so representative of what I find myself doing. And here it is, straight out of the Bible. I think it comes from Proverbs or Ecclesiastes. Wisdom from King Solomon, no doubt. He says, ship your grain across the sea, and after many days you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Whoever watches the wind will not plant, and whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Boy, is there a lot of good wisdom in there, right? And I said, okay, I might be up to 8 ventures by now, going on parallel with Michael and Connie and so on. Probably more than that, actually, but nevertheless, it sounds like it's biblical wisdom to plant a lot of seeds, hoping some get up, right? We say in our gardening skills that you should plant one for the worm and one for the crow and one for the mildew and one to grow. It's the same principle. And so get out there and be involved in multiple things that might bear fruit. But what you should not do is be intimidated by everything on there, watching the winds of regulation or looking at the clouds of competition, because those who do that will never get involved. You'll be too timid. So you got to just plow forward, and don't worry about the minefield that's in front of you. because staying behind is a certain way to be overrun. So we all boldly go out into the wild and woolly universe and let the chips fall where they may, to mix a bunch of metaphors. Next.
Clue number 43.
This is a story that talks about the twin brothers Jacob and Esau, sons of Isaac, and a little episode that happened to them. And I didn't change very much about it except to substitute BitShares instead of stew, which is what the original story was all about, or BitShares instead of the birthright, which was the right promised by God to Abraham, handed down to Isaac, and then handed down presumably to the firstborn Esau, but Esau despised that, didn't see the value of it, thought lightly of it, and tossed it away easily. Jacob prized that birthright, and that led to him becoming Israel and the father of the 12 tribes of Israel and father of many, many nations. Anyhow, enough history lesson. Once, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." Jacob replied, "First, sell me your BitShares." "Look, I'm about to die," Esau said. "What good are BitShares to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling his BitShares to Jacob. And then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew, and he ate and drank and got up and left. So Esau despised his BitShares. And so I expect many people out there that have not had the wisdom of seeing what we've been talking about here in this fictitious universe may have a completely different view of how valuable BitShares are to them. They certainly seem to, since BitShares has been at a ridiculously cheap price. And as a result of that, I think there's a chance that you could view them as people who have sold as despising BitShares the way Esau despised his stew. So that was basically what I'm pointing out there. There seemed to be a biblical parallel in terms of how people despise things that are infinitely valuable, pearls of great price. Of course, if you don't have an understanding of the parallel universe I live in and what it might turn into, then you're likely to take that attitude. And that's a shame. Next.
Clue number 44.
A wise man recognizes that 70 weeks plus 70 days is exactly equal to 40 fortnights. Just saying. Okay, so you say, what the heck? Well, a lot of these different clues out there that I've been talking about have been using biblical periods of time to talk about events that are coming up in my fictitious universe. So, in your universe, the actual dates things might happen could be widely different depending on what actions different people take and so on. But at least in my fictitious universe, you're going to see that number 70 weeks and 70 days and 40 fortnights show up in terms of the nominal schedule at which certain events are going to happen, once again, in my fictitious universe. Next.
Clue number 45 with a big blue rock attached.
Yeah, I wanted to do something in the Bible that was talking about space as the very first hint that space may actually play a role in here. And I wanted to share with you two of the most amazing verses in the Bible. The book of Job is maybe the oldest book in the Bible. Probably was written just a couple hundred years maybe after Noah's flood. And in here, in those verses are said things that are pretty hard to imagine. Somebody who is a sheep tender, even a very wealthy sheep tender, wealthy owner of things back in the Stone Age or Bronze Age and so on, having any ability to say things like he stretches out the north over the void and hangs the earth on nothing. Back at that time, I thought everybody thought it was, turtles all the way down. Everybody thought the earth was flat. Well, this certainly doesn't sound like they thought the earth was flat and that they had a concept that the earth was hanging in a void on nothing. How do they know that if it wasn't inspired information from God? Then the other thing, and this is just an incredible smoking gun from Job 26:10. He has inscribed a circle on the face of the waters at the boundary between light and darkness. Now, if you've seen the picture of the Earth from deep in space and seen what NASA calls the Terminator, that curved line that runs all the way around the Earth, separating the bright side from the dark side, how in the world would you picture something like that if you were an earthbound primitive man at the time of writing this? And yet the only way you can inscribe a circle in the face of the waters that separates light and darkness is if you do it on a sphere. So here we are in the oldest book in the Bible, description of the earth being a sphere. And so you just never know what you're going to find. And the more you dig into it, the more amazing it becomes. But as a clue, it was merely a way to foreshadow some things that we'll say about space later on.
Clue number 46.
Okay, have you ever read in Scripture that the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone? This was the Lord's doing, and it is amazing in our eyes. Therefore, I tell you, the future of BitShares will be taken away from the scoffers and given to people that produce the intended fruits of the dynasty. So there is a verse that was really talking about Jesus as the stone the builders rejected. He showed up, and the leaders of the Jewish community at that time rejected him and crucified him. And in the future, he will become the cornerstone on which all of the governments of the earth are built. But in some very minor way, we can look at BitShares as being something that, when it came to the digital community, the industry, back in 2014, 2015, even to this day, it was the stone that the builders rejected. Very little adopted by the industry. In fact, every kind of attempt not to talk about it in articles in the controlled media that are out there. And yet quietly, BitShares and its dynasty of Steemit and EOS, and all the spin-offs from that, have grown to become the cornerstone of the industry in terms of total number of transactions. Can vary from 72% recently up to 85% at one point of the transactions that are happening in the industry. So this was a foreshadowing of the things we are building already are quite huge and are set to become the foundation of the industry before too much longer, at least in my parallel universe. Next.
Clue number 47.
The fiery red horse of clue 36 just reared his head. This was actually a clue that came out the very day before Jared came on and announced his DWeb activity. So this was just sort of a clue that that we are entering that week of all his announcements. And of course, his announcements since then have proliferated into many other things since that first appearance. But that was what that clue was about. Pretty obvious, really. Next. Hey, Connie.
Are you already on 48? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute.
You're supposed to. Let me give you
clue,
a cue.
Clue number 48.
48.
Well, you flew by on that. I'm trying to answer people there in the old live chat there. There we go. Number 48.
There we go. This was the one that was predicted last week. We looked at one that was talking about a prophecy from the book of Daniel, chapter 9, which was called the prophecy of the 77s. And one of the things that the angel Gabriel said to Daniel was, from the time that the word goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until ... there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. Very mysterious. Predicted the arrival of Jesus on Palm Sunday, riding a donkey into Jerusalem down to the very day. But in this particular case, I had paraphrased that but we needed to stick a stake in the ground to start the clock ticking. So on August 11th, 2018, we started the clock running, but the word go out to restore and rebuild BitShares. So that was a piece of information you use with those other clues to figure out when the clock starts ticking. Next.
Clue number 49.
There we go. Truly I say unto you, this very week, before a certain rooster crows 3 times, the significance of one of these horsemen will be revealed to those considered worthy to attain to that degree of knowledge of the future of BitShares. And so this was once again a announcement that we were of what was coming up on Crypto Connie's show that week. And I forget whether that was Jared or Sean, but one of those two was appearing on Crypto Connie. And so you notice how even then I hedged a little bit by saying before a certain rooster crows. That way, around the world there are roosters crowing all the time. So I had a certain rooster in mind, and that actually did come to pass within that period of time. Next.
Clue number 50.
When the servant of the man of... Okay, first off, I got to give a little hint there. Elisha was up on the wall looking out of his city, surrounded by the Assyrian army, and it was clear they were laying siege to the city, and that was not a good thing because there were so many, such a large army encamped out there. And Elisha's servant was very concerned, and that led to the famous chariots of fire verse. When the servant of the man of God got up and went out early in the morning, an army with horses and chariots had surrounded the city. So he asked Elisha, "Oh, my master, what are we to do?" "Do not be afraid," Elisha answered, "for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." Then Elisha prayed, "Oh, Lord, please open his eyes that he may see." And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw that the whole hills were full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So, there could be multiple interpretations of this, but the idea is that both physically and spiritually, the BitShares community has an incredible amount of support, and the digital currency industry is incredibly powerful. If it is angered, it can bring together hundreds of millions, nay, hundreds of billions of resources in order to take on a legal fight of epic proportions, should there be enough dirty tricks played on the industry. And we're getting pretty close to that. So, when you start having those kind of legal resources, those are the kind of things that can get laws changed and Supreme Court rulings and agencies stripped of the power they're abusing. These are the kind of things that can be brought together. And that isn't even counting those who rely on God and his invisible armies on the hill, the chariots of fire. So those who want to play around and surround our digital currency city with their armies had better go back and look at the Bible and see what happens to such armies when they basically rile the Lord. And of course, I don't get to speak for the Lord and what he might do, but I do know that he says, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay." And I'm counting on him to do that in this case. And word to the wise is sufficient. Next.
Clue number 51.
Be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die, for I have not found your works perfect before God. Remember, therefore, how you have received and heard, and hold fast and repent. Therefore, if you will not watch, I will come upon you as a thief, and you will not know what hour I will come upon you. But you are not in darkness that day should overtake you like a thief. This is, of course, what Christians are told. Non-Christians are going to go along thinking peace and security, and Jesus is going to show up and shellac them. But those who have studied carefully the things of the Bible and the things that are prophesied there are prepared and not at all surprised when the day happens. And that's something people don't really think about. They think, oh, everybody's going to be surprised. No, 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 that's not what the Bible says. And you won't be surprised either, because you have been doing your due diligence and listening to my stories on here. And who knows, just hearing stories, even if they're not in your parallel universe, they still will cause you to be thinking along the right lines when you see certain signs happening, whenever they happen. Next.
Number 52. Ooh, got ahead of myself there. Number 5252. Thank you for joining us, too, by the way. You're watching Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis. This is Crypto Connie. This is Stan Larimer giving you his second part 2 of his clues.
Those who are not watching and hiding these clues in their hearts will not comprehend the significance of what is happening when, as the lightning flashing in the east is seen in the west, that event comes. Later, all the tribes of the earth will mourn when the truth becomes generally known. Well, the lightning flashing in the east, as seen in the west, is coming up next week when I stand up in front of large groups of people in Amsterdam, in Sao Paulo, eventually a few weeks later in Las Vegas. I'm going to be telling people in very plain terms what I think will be happening in my fictitious universe. And everybody's going to look at me and say, why are you telling me about what's going to be happening in your fictitious universe? Why do we care? Well, those of you who have been through all this and have been hiding all those clues in your heart will notice when things start to happen, if they happen in your universe. And keep in mind, in your universe, it may be somebody different than me who's responsible for it happening. But you will be prepared when it does happen in order to make sure you can take advantage of it. And other people will look at it and say, Stan's lost it. What in the world is he talking about? But it'll be there just as plain as the lightning flashing in the east for everybody to see. And that's what I expect to happen. Next.
Clue number 53.
Now this is in fact the verse from Daniel chapter 9 that I had referred to a few minutes ago. From the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild BitShares until the plan is complete, there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The first phase of that plan will be complete 7 weeks after the word went out to restore and rebuild BitShares on August 11th. Okay, so this is basically a clue I came that explained the previous clue that I talked about and made it explicit. That started 7-week countdown. That week ends basically that week begins next Saturday when I speak in Amsterdam, and it ends a week from that date when we have published a series of Steemit articles that will give more details about our fictional account of how all of this story would end, at least in our universe. During the 7th of those first 7 weeks, we'll be appearing at a conference in Amsterdam and Sao Paulo, where we will lay out the next phase of the plan publicly. Tonight, you're going to get a preview of that with a full Steemit post made available for all the world on the last day of that 7th week. So that's what that clue was all about, was giving you a certain level of explanation of it as we went along. Next.
Clue number 54.
Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, for what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness, or what fellowship has light with darkness? This is basically saying that Christians should not be partnered with unbelievers, because all that will do is pull you down instead of doing what believers are supposed to be doing. And the same thing happens if in this particular BitShares Dynasty universe you spend too much time yoked with people that are naysayers about what we're doing. They may convince you to walk away or to not be involved or to miss out They may cause you to lose your belief and therefore lose the actions that you would take if you did believe. Once again, this is something that I'm doing here that's simultaneously designed to create a series of parallels that help tell you the key Christian message. And while we're at it, give you something that will reward you should things come to pass as I have prophesied in these pages. Next.
Clue number 55, and I'm just going to keep quiet about this one. I'll tell you the secret afterwards, but only with you and I, Stan.
All right. That was interesting. Well, I used a little term grok. He who groks it will also grok our coming raindrop theory. Okay. What I gave you a link to here, and in that, is to some of the early discussions of what airdrop theory was all about. And just for those of you who don't remember, airdrop theory was the idea of, if you're going to give away tokens to a community, you want to attract people who are likely to be good supporters for you. And so people sometimes said, well, I want a coin, Aurora coin. I'm going to drop it on every citizen of Iceland. Turned out to be that wasn't too smart, because most citizens of Iceland had no idea what it was good for and quickly dumped them and drove the price to zero. So if you do your airdrop on top of people who are not dedicated and devoted to what you're doing, they're just going to dump them and drive the price down and hurt it for everybody. So you need some better mechanism for selecting the target of your free giveaway. And that usually means having people work for it, right? Having people do something that takes them out of the way of what they normally would do, to show that, yeah, they're willing to at least lift a little finger and in order to collect it, as opposed to dropping it on them where it's so easy to just dump. And so the word grok means to thoroughly understand. It comes from Heinlein's story, Stranger in a Strange Land. And in there, the grok is a Martian word, and it means to totally and thoroughly understand something. So if you totally understand airdrop theory, as I've described it for years, then you'll understand how we came up with the reason of giving you this type of giveaway strategy out there, should someone pick it up and decide to use it.
Clue number 56.
Yeah, okay, here we go. This clue I have fiddled with by removing the mask on the actual dates. If you go back and look at what the actual thing said, it didn't have a specific number in there, but now I can tell you. In the 6th year of BitShares, on the 5th day of the 11th month, on that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and rain fell for 7 weeks, and 40 days, and 40 fortnights. Okay. Now, some of you may recognize that as sounding an awful lot like the description of Noah's flood, when it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. But in this case here, I've got a little mixture of things from both Daniel, which was dealing in several different combinations of 7 weeks or 7 periods of time. Somebody asked the question, wait a minute here, when do we get to the halfway point in the first 7 weeks? Well, keep in mind, as I hinted throughout there, these are 77s, and sometimes it refers to weeks, and sometimes it refers to years. So the first 7 is a reference to the first 7 years of BitShares. So maybe that'll help you decode where we are in time on the big scale. But on the smaller scale of 7 weeks and 40 days and 40 fortnights, that's the period of time from the date at which the heavens burst open and the floodgates of heaven are open. Once it starts raining tokens, then there'll be two types of tokens. As you may know, EOS has a EOS token and a RAM token, and we're talking about a BIOS token and a BRAM token that are things that are needed to operate the system so that it can regulate use of resources. And those are, of course, valuable the way Chuck E. Cheese tickets are valuable. If you've got those tokens, you can play the games and use the system. And so that's really the function of these tokens that will be given away 100% free to BitShares holders, but only participating BitShares holders. So this should be shocking to you, right? Because so far, EOS has been getting all the airdrops of tokens for everything new. And even one of our own community's parallel sidechains for BitShares dropped it all over on EOS. When does BitShares get its airdrop? I mean, that we had the original concept for getting, at least 20% of a new chain uses our technology airdropped onto our people as a thank you for borrowing the technology. It's totally voluntary, but expected. Not very many people have done that 20% airdrop, I'm very ashamed to say. But we're going to make it up this time, because this time 100% of this chain is airdropped on BitShares holders. And it will be done in such a way that people who are using the new system will be the ones who automatically from the system get issued tokens while they use it during this period of time. 7 weeks and 40 days is actually 89 days, roughly 3 months. And during that time, the EOS tokens will be distributed among those who have their shares on the new system. Now, what does that mean? Well, we're talking about two chains, BitShares and EOS, not the main chain EOS, but a clone of EOS that are running in parallel and servicing each other. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that happens. But one of the big things that happens there is that their tokens on either chain are portable and can move back and forth between those two chains. So anything that's ever been created on BitShares can basically switch off on the BitShares side and switch on the EOS side without changing the total number of those tokens, but just the ability to move across from one chain to the other. And that means that one of the things you can do as a test case is take one of your BitShares and move it onto the BIOS chain, where it can sit over there. And it can sit over there just as well as where it's sitting right now, except when it's sitting on the BIOS side, meaning you have become a user of this new chain, then you can be eligible for rainfall coming down, hand out a free token. You are essentially getting compensated for your role in bootstrapping up this new system, and you're not having to spend the token. This is just store it over on the new chain to say, yes, I support what's going on. If you don't support what's going on, then don't move your tokens over there, and you won't get any of the tokens that run that system. So as you can see, this is not an ICO. No one is selling anything. The system, when it starts running, is simply going to give its tokens to people who are using it. And then the way you use it in the first place is to put some of your BitShares over there. Should mention one other little thing about it is that this will be a type 1 type of cross-chain communication, which still has a human-operated gateway in the middle. We will only be able to put higher levels of integration in if the BitShares community votes to modify BitShares in order to do cross-chain communication. And there's several approaches to that people are working on. And whatever one the BitShares community decides to accept is the one we'll accept and integrate to in the future. But initially, because we've got to bootstrap it one way or the other, we're going to use type 1 communication, a ordinary gateway, which basically says coins that are moving across are taken out of circulation on one side and held in escrow, and then issued into the other side corresponding amount. And later, we'll unplug that very primitive solution and adopt whatever BitShares ultimately selects as its ability to communicate to EOS blockchains. We're not going to dictate that. We're going to adopt what the community adopts, although we may offer our own solution as we go along. The 40 fortnights is a longer period of time, and that's for getting handed out RAM tokens. 40 days and 40 fortnights is 80 weeks, is about a year and a half. So that'll give you an idea. And if in your universe, whoever decides to follow this storyline and make it happen, if they do start it running on Guy Fawkes Day, then 89 days later, 7 weeks and 40 days, will be Groundhog Day over here in America, February 2nd. And that would be the period of time during which the EOS tokens are handed out to people who use the system while it's in test. And by being guinea pigs, you're earning the right to collect these tokens. And then they're yours for whatever you want to do with them. 40 fortnights will take us well into 2019 before those stop being handed out. So that's what I was talking about with all those mysterious numbers. Next.
Wow, what a lot of information. People are getting this. Clue number 57.
For all of you who are believers, there is neither Jew nor Greek, nor slave nor free, nor male nor female, nor BTSers or EOSers, for all are one in the futures of BitShares. Our vision is to make BitShares one of the best and most interesting of the EOS sidechains. Okay, we're starting out by using EOS itself to build the interface so that we can use however the EOS interfaces evolve for sidechains to working. We can let that evolve as Block 1 does its thing and so on. Our interface to what Block 1 is doing is using Block 1 code to make it, and then we can modify things facing the BitShares as necessary in order to keep BitShares on there. But imagine some people come along and say, I'm going to make a clone of the EOS chain for this special purpose or that special purpose. Our special purpose is tying BitShares and EOS together so that going forward, BitShares can be viewed as just an extremely powerful EOS chain that has all the base features of EOS and all the legacy features of BitShares in one braided chain, if you will. And that allows us to be backward compatible without interfering with anybody else who may be building on the original legacy system. Don't want to go in there and recommend big changes to that. Might break somebody's business model. But we want to give them the ability to have confidence to know that going forward they will remain compatible with the juggernaut of the EOS mega ecosystem that is clearly going to become one of the all-time great platforms out there. And we want BitShares to be able to ride along as a member of that family. And so this is our way of achieving that. And when we're done, hopefully people will be able to move back and forth with tokens produced on either chain and use them on the other chains. Next.
Clue number 58.
None of the rulers of this age understood it, for if they had, they would have not crucified the Lord of glory. Rather, as it is written, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no heart has imagined what God has prepared for those who love him. But God has revealed it to us by the Spirit. And the Spirit searches all things, even the deep things of God. This is one of my favorite Bible verses, but it's basically saying, hey, you got no idea what God's got in store for us. And in my own fictional little universe here, I hope you understand that the potential of the type of system that I'm describing is big a leap forward. Well, probably not. But at least it is a leap forward compared with that you can't imagine, like you can't imagine what heaven is like. Obviously, I'm not going to try to compete with God to impress you, but I do think that this has a lot of potential and things that you haven't even imagined. And before the night is over, maybe I'll even hint at one of them. Next.
Hint, 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 hint away. Clue number 59 was Stan Larimer, the godfather of BitShares.
Then Pilate asked him, "Do you not hear how many charges they are bringing against you?" But Jesus gave no answer, not even a single charge, much to the governor's amazement. Yeah, obviously I try to follow Jesus' example. And, in the past year or two, there have been all kinds of people bringing charges against all kinds of people, and some people have asked me the same thing. Hey, do you hear all the FUD they're slinging against you? Do you see all the charges they're bringing against other innovators in our industry? And, in this case, Jesus didn't even bother to answer it. He knew that the way things would turn out are determined by God far in advance. And, while we may have a small amount of influence on what we do from day to day, the Bible tells us that the Lord directs our steps, and where they lead will be to accomplish His purposes. So that's why I don't waste a lot of time answering the charges that they have been bringing against our community and us as individual innovators. Those who can do, and those who can't bring FUD and charges. So there. Next.
It's clue number 60. Wow.
I love these verses from Isaiah, several of them. It sort of made me think about the same thing. We're doing something new. One of them is, "Do not call to mind the former things. Pay no attention to the things of old." These kind of things will have the potential of making everything we're arguing about today not come to mind. Another verse, "Behold, I'm about to do something new. Even now it is coming. Do you not see it? Indeed, I will make a way in the wilderness and streams in the desert." And the third part of Isaiah, he says, "For behold, I will create new heavens and a new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind." So these are all the glorious things, of course, God has in mind for us. And once we get to heaven, the messed up things that are being done in this world, all the efforts people are going to try to dominate this world are going to be, passe and not interesting. And so we don't even want to think too much about it. I think that the things that are going to be happening in our industry in the coming year are going to take us far away from the things we've been worried about in the past year. And that's what I meant by those clues.
Number 61.
This is where I introduced the concept of a raindrop. And keep in mind, back in that Daniel 9 verse, the end will come with a raindrop, is one of the verses that I said. And so that particular raindrop that we're talking about is nothing but an airdrop that takes place in a long, sustained period of time. It's not like there's a single block that's going to be designated where everybody who holds a given coin at that time gets free coins. And it's going to be more like if you leave your BitShare out in the rain for all 89 days, it's going to be a lot of rain that lands on it. It's going to collect a lot of rain. If you put a BitShare on there one day and take it back out the next, well, you'll collect a little bit of rain while it's sitting there. And so I coined the phrase raindrop to talk about a sustained distribution of coins onto people who are participating in breaking in a new system. And to me, that seemed to be a very fair way of giving away the tokens in a way that doesn't require anyone to invest or to do anything other than provide a service for testing out the system during its startup days. Okay, and let's see, what else? There was something else I was going to tell you about that.
Raindrops keep falling on my head. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Connie. A little bit of Jeopardy music here while Stan thinks. Okay. So let me give you an example. Steady state rainfall over a period of 89 days. If only one person puts a BitShare out there for one day, nobody else participates. That person collects all the rain for that day. Okay, if half of the people who have BitShares move them over, then they'll get basically a double dose because they'll collect the shares for the half that didn't move. If everybody moves BitShares off of the BitShares network onto the new network for that period of time, then it's 1 for 1. I don't think that will happen because a lot of people have their BitShares locked up supporting other things that they're doing. But you can see that there's a possibility that if half of the total BitShares move, then everybody's going to get a 2 for 1 airdrop. And if very few people do, those who do participate are going to be richly rewarded. That turns out to be one of the best little secrets I can give you for those of you who have sat through this long show. Next.
Clue number 62, and I love, 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 love that logo. Love that logo. Oh my, that's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it says a lot about the hopes and dreams, at least in this universe. We'll see what happens in your universe. But a lot of people were worried about the fact that several different companies and developers are saying that they're going to build BitShares on top of EOS. I'm sure that will happen to some sense. They'll build decentralized exchanges on EOS. But I say unto you that BTS will have EOS. Yes, that's what we're doing. We're taking all of EOS and making it a sidechain of BTS. Turns the tables around 100%. It does have the side effect of making BitShares a super powerful EOS chain. And one of the EOS chains that are out there, perhaps one of the leading chains, since it has such a strategic advantage of where it's been and where it's coming from. So that is what we're unveiling coming up this week, in the next month, all over the place, leading up to the 6th Guy Fawkes Day, which is the day the very first block was mined of the very first prototype of BitShares known as BitShares BTS. Next.
This is clue number 63.
Ah, yes. And then I was given a reed like a measuring rod. And the angel stood and said, "Rise and measure the BitShares dynasty, but leave out the part which is against the vision, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the fudslingers. And they will tread the blockchains underfoot for 42 months. And I will give power to my witnesses, and they will operate until 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth." Okay, well, this is going to be one that I'm not going to reveal everything about tonight. I will just give you a little history lesson. Back in 70, what's shown up here is some artist's concept of how the Jewish temple and the Muslim Dome of the Rock could coexist on the Temple Mount over in Jerusalem. It turns out that back in the year late 700s, after Muhammad, some of his successors conquered Jerusalem, and by then, of course, it had been all the stones of the old temple had been thrown down back in 70 AD, so it had been a barren place for all that time. So it was the intention of the Caliph at that time of building the Dome of the Rock on top of the Holy of Holies, where the original Israeli temple had stood, the Jewish temple. And so he built it on top of this flat rock that, is an interesting, it's the rock, the Dome of the Rock was named after. And if you look at pictures on the inside, you can see it a rock, presumed to be the place where Abraham almost sacrificed Isaac. Lots of speculation in all of that. There are some people who believe that he chose wrong and that there's actually a different location where the Holy of Holies and the inner parts of the temple were located, and that you could build a new Jewish temple on top of its original site, lined up with the gate that faces east. They call it the Beautiful Gate. And if you did that, you could have them both up. And this particular verse that I paraphrased from the book of Revelation is saying that, the part outside the courtyard of the temple has been given to the Gentiles until the end times when they come. So don't include it. So anyhow, I took that particular thing and said, yeah, you know, if we think of this new chain as being something that where rainfall is occurring, but outside of that, anybody that doesn't come in, that stays outside in the courtyard, that has been given to the mudslingers, those who may decide that they don't want to have anything to do with what we are doing and would rather stay outside where it won't rain and they won't get to participate. So I was going a little bit for that. I'm happy to see, though, that there seems to be peace has broken out in the BitShares community. Some of those FUD slingers are not slinging FUD anymore. And a lot of credit has to go to Jared Rice for going and pointing out to everybody that, hey, we got bigger fish to fry than fighting among ourselves over little things. We need to stick together or we will all hang separately, or words to that effect. And so that is what this clue is all about. And we'll have to wait and see how that all shakes out, and whether some of those prophecies come true or not hangs in the balance. So we'll just sort of let that sit there as a mystery for a while. Next.
This is clue number 64. Love to hear about the piece going on, and I'd like you to enjoy showing this one off as I go see a man about a dog real quick. I'll be right back. You take your time. Did you get the hint?
Yeah, I get the hint. I'm supposed to stall because when Connie starts playing with her dog, she may lose track of the fact she's got a show going on, and I'll be sitting there saying, "Gee, I sure wish she'd pushed next," but we'll go for it. Okay.
As long as you don't think I'm going to the bathroom, that's fine.
Okay. No, she really does have a little dog, Penny Girl, who seems to always want to get on the show, no matter how she has to distract the host in order to make that happen. History may not repeat itself, but sometimes it rhymes. And I put a reference there to the original posting back for the launching of BitShares 2.0, which happened on October 13th, which is interesting. It's smack dab between the places that we're going to this week to make some announcements and the arrival of Guy Fawkes Day in November. So we're smack dab in the middle of that period of time. We come across the anniversary of BitShares 2.0. And so if you then use that as the starting point, then the whole statement from the previous mystery clue, and they will tread the blockchains underfoot for 42 months, and I will give power to my witnesses, and they will operate until 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth. That's a very mysterious part of the Bible, but I will simply point out to you that if you start counting off the years, starting from the date that BitShares 2.0 was launched, you get a year, years, and half a year, which is another common theme in biblical prophecies, a time, times, and half a time. And that takes us to this mysterious date of April 13th, 2019, as being the end of a 3.5-year period, which is also equal to 42 months, which is also equal to 1,260 days. And there's this mysterious Bible verse about, I'll give power to my witnesses. So I want to leave all this as part of a mystery for you. Just show you on this particular chart. It's a little bit hard to see, but every single one of those chunks is a year, starting with a Guy Fawkes Day. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Guy Fawkes Days brings us to You Are Here, with the release of EOS and the release of BIOS, ideally happening on Guy Fawkes Day. And then a period of other events to be revealed happen after that. And that leads us to the 1260 days. What will happen on there? Well, that's not going to be revealed in tonight's session. Some of these clues are a little longer term, but you can see that each one of them is being carefully considered in this fictitious universe that I'm spinning this tale in. Next. Hey, Connie must have got back. Did you give your dog a lube, oil, and filter? Okay. Somehow we went to clue 31. I just point out some of the things that happened in that. Oops, let's go back there, Connie. Here we go. So, we have this list of a lot of things that we want to see happen in this 77 periods of time. And some of these things, finishing development, putting an end to FUD. You see some of this is starting to happen, to undo some wickedness that we're experiencing, to bring in everlasting integrity, to seal up vision and riddles, and to achieve our proper place on CoinMarketCap. So these are the kind of things that are woven into this plan in my universe. And whoops, not so fast, Connie. She's getting a little itchy trigger finger there. Back off.
I'm so sorry. I'm like going, how come 31 and 31 is on again and again? And anyway, here we go.
Yeah, well, some clues talk about older clues. And so
I got you.
To be able to talk about them, I brought forward a few older clues so I could point out some of the things that we couldn't talk about. In the middle of the 7, he'll put an end to trust and civility. That's the anti-nice, as opposed to the Antichrist, the people who don't want to be nice. And we have seen some of that end to civility. We want to put an end to the end of that and get back to working as a team. And that may happen sooner than we ever had dared hope. And it says the end will come with a raindrop. Now you know what that's all talking about. And from the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild BitShares until the plan is complete, there will be 7 weeks. We're about to finish them coming up here in the next week or so, and 62 weeks. And those 62 weeks are mapped into when some of the other work, the other planned work is done that will go on in parallel. Because when this first version is released on Guy Fawkes Day, if it is, then 62 weeks counts down to when some additional functionality is completed and delivered. It will be rebuilt with layers and fortification and a vote. Note that vote in there, because those final upgrades will require a vote of the BitShares community to be integrated. But perhaps in times of trouble, and we can certainly imagine many scenarios for that, can't we? Next. And then this was just a map of that I'll call to your attention if you didn't see the previous weeks. I'll put it all in here. You can see that that timeline down there at the lower half of the page shows the weeks that we're talking about. And we have the first period of 7 weeks that we're just finishing up. And then we have 62 weeks that count off from Guy Fawkes Day. There's a little gap in there. And then we are essentially done. And then we have one final period of time that will be described at a later date. Next.
All right, this is clue number 65.
Guys, we're down to the last 5 clues. You better start sending Connie your questions. I expect there should be quite a few questions tonight, given the number of beans we've spilled here going along. Okay. Clue 65. Now I declare to you, brothers and sisters, that the unbelievers cannot inherit the future of BitShares, nor does the skeptical inherit the iconoclastic. Listen, I will tell you a mystery. We will not all snooze, but a few will be changed in an instant, in the twinkling of the eye, at the first block. For the block will be signed and our tokens made portable, and we will be changed. Of course, this is talking about the rapture in the Bible, but in our particular case here, we're saying that with the advent of that Genesis block, ideally on Guy Fawkes Day, we would have our tokens made portable across the 2 chains. But the skeptical cannot inherit the iconoclastic. And what we're going to do with this chain is break a whole lot of rules in terms of how things are done. We are not constrained by any kind of rule. Certainly, going back to doing raindrop on BitShare holders who got kind of left out when Steemit was rolled out and when EOS was rolled out. And I sort of looked at it and said, hey, what's BitShares? Chopped liver? But if you think about it, given that a lot of EOS code is based on BitShares, and given that EOS's policy is that people who want to do side chains and do different projects should do share drops back on EOS holder, then it seems like a perfectly fair way to make all things right is to give BitShares its own EOS chain and give that to BitShares holders, and therefore make them whole and part of the community again. So this is grand unification theory. My hope is that this will be viewed as a way to bring communities together as we go along, just as whale shares has brought in Steemit into the BitShares community. So in some sense, Fuzzy and I are going after the same set of goals, getting back to honoring those long-term loyal BitShares holders who have suffered through a lot of apparently broken promises. And I'm a promise keeper, and I go try to fix things that didn't work out the way I had hoped earlier times. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. Iconoclastic means breaking all the rules or breaking the established, cherished traditions, and that's certainly what we're going to do here. One of the other ways that we'll be breaking with the traditions of how things have been done is how will the equivalent of the reserve fund be managed. I'm not going to design this one to be managed by a vote, people voting on worker proposals and so on like that. This particular one has a much bigger mission, which is to defend the blockchain. This particular reserve fund, while it can be used to implement upgrades to worker proposals and so on to help maintain the system and whatever else, its primary function is to create a reserve fund to fund people who are unfairly singled out and stripped of all their resources and left naked before the beast where they can't defend themselves. We want to have an example where there is a large reserve fund to deter that type of dirty trick and cause there to be a more fair approach to things where people are not prevented from having a suitable legal defense should they be singled out for mischief. And so that is an example that will be run by a board of trustees, a traditional legal trust whose fiduciary responsibility is to look after that particular fund and to decide where it ought to be deployed. And one of the reasons for that is that when somebody gets picked on by the authorities in any country, they need help right away. They cannot wait for the community to vote on whether they're going to help somebody or not. So we're going to give a board of trustees responsibility for looking after those funds. It'll be an international board of trustees, and its mission is to defend the blockchain, and not just BitShares, but any place where we see dirty tricks being used that don't lead to justice, but lead to an attempt to stamp out our industry unfairly by abusing power. So that's another place where we're talking about breaking the rules. So there'll be many other rules that are broken. One is the idea that witnesses have to provide their own hardware. We're going where no man has gone before, and it won't be possible for witnesses to provide their own hardware. So we have to design it to separate out to where witnesses can be elected. Block signers can be elected, but they would be issued their own hardware, much like an elected government representative gets issued a government office. While they stay in office, they get to use that location in the Capitol building, wherever they are. So in that sense, we're going to separate the hardware and the software into two different situations where the part that needs to be decentralized, the election of who decides what software runs, is different from who maintains the hardware when the hardware is exotic and not available to the average person. So once again, another place where we have been iconoclastic. Next.
Love the name dropping of Fuzzy. We all love Fuzzy. What a great guy. And here we go to clue number 66.
Absolutely. At the suggestion of Charles Hoskinson, BitShares was first launched as ProtoShares on Guy Fawkes Day, November 5th, 2013. At that time, it had V for Vendetta libertarian overtones, and certainly we were, from the very beginning, thinking of BitShares as a piece of infrastructure that would help people maintain their freedom. But I've since learned that the history behind this is quite sordid. Guy Fawkes actually was part of a Catholic gunpowder plot to blow up King James of England, who was one of the first Protestant kings and who had sponsored the production of the King James Bible. And we just had, I got to get back to here because my phone went off when I didn't want it to. Okay, so as a result, I don't support either the idea of stomping out the Protestant Reformation or the use of violence like that. So, it's sort of with mixed feelings that I use Guy Fawkes Day as a reference point, but certainly over the history, we've had a lot of things happen on that day since Charles Hoskinson started that. And so now it means Big BitShares Event Day, and however else it may have been used in the past is overshadowed by what it means to us. And I would say that's a cautionary note for everybody who thinks of any symbol. And we look right now at what flags stand for example. Some people say the Confederate flag is a racist symbol, but an awful lot of other people say, no, it's a states' rights symbol. And, depending upon which meaning you attach to that symbol, you can either be outraged at it or love it. And the same thing would happen for the American flag. If it stands for the ideals of our founding fathers, then by golly, why in the world aren't you standing up and saluting it? But if it stands for a growing totalitarian government run by a deep state, well, then you can say, well, maybe there'll come a time when that symbol gets overwritten by what it has become, not what it was intended to be. So we've got to be careful with our symbols. In this case here, Guy Fawkes Day is a recurring day in BitShares history when great things happen for the advancement of the cause of freedom and independence from tyranny. And I'll leave it at that. Next.
Clue number 67.
Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing by the blockchains when out of the data stream there came up 9 bitcoins, sleek and fat, and they grazed among the altcoins. After them, 9 other bitcoins, ugly and gaunt, came up out of the chains and stood beside those on the riverbank. And the bitcoins that were ugly and gaunt ate up the 9 sleek, fat bitcoins. And then Pharaoh woke up. This is one of 2 dreams that Pharaoh had that was interpreted by Joseph. And, in general, they were predicting 7 years of famine and 7 years of, prior to the 7 years of famine, 7 years of plenty. And so that whole storyline made me think about the fact that, we've had 9 years where, bitcoins were nice and fat and sleek and leading the industry. But in this dream, and don't ask me to explain where this dream came from, but the next 9 years of Bitcoin, I don't think are going to be as good for it as the past 9 because of the very work that we are doing. Bitcoin will always be here, but it's not going to have the role the maximalists think because there's better technologies coming out all the time, and Bitcoin is limited to one tiny little function. Then the Pharaoh fell asleep again and had the second dream. 5 BitShares, thin and scorched by the east wind, were trading on a single blockchain. And after them, 5 other BitShares, healthy and good, sprouted, and the healthy BitShares swallowed up the 5 thin BitShares. Then Pharaoh woke up. It had been a dream. So here I'm suggesting that the inverse happens in the case of BitShares. We've had 5 years of amazing growth, but still, compared to what it could have been, somewhat disappointing. I think the next 5 years are going to be years of plenty because of some of the things that are being done. The 4 horsemen and each of the projects they're doing, all the other members of the BitShares community that are building great stuff. I think that could result in a golden age of BitShares coming up. And so that's what I was hinting at with those 2 dreams, playing on the years of famine and plenty that we saw in the story of Joseph. Next.
Clue number 68.
Okay, getting dangerously close to the end here. I hope your questions are piling up in Connie's lap. You shall count off 7 sevens of drops, even 7 times 77s of drops. And there shall be to you 5 sevenths for the faithful and 2 sevenths for the equal system, until the rain of the drops comes to an end and all is fulfilled. But as for the unbelievers, cast them out into the outer desert, where the rain does not drop, and there is wailing and gnashing of teeth. Okay, so what we're really talking about here is that in using rough numbers, there are 3.5 billion BitShares. Okay, and so that can be thought of as 7 chunks of a $500 million, and 5 of those chunks, namely all the BitShares that are in circulation right now, are being the ones, are corresponding ones of EOS, the new coins, are distributed to the faithful who come over and help bootstrap the system. And 2 sevenths, basically the extra billion that's sitting in the reserve fund, are going to be in a reserve fund just like they were before for supporting the ecosystem, particularly its legal needs, but also whatever else is done. And those are the ones I was referring to as being managed by formal trustees who can take and put that to use. One of the things I wanted to achieve with this vision is get rid of the tragedy of the commons that we have right now in BitShares, where it's so hard to get people to vote for things that are needed and to keep them voted in. Companies don't do that. Shareholders elect a board, and the board hires a president and may give him several years to implement his plan. If things don't go good, they may fire the CEO or whatever and bring in a new management team. But generally, there's the ability to have sustainable programs that are given long enough to succeed or fail before the whim of voting on everything interrupts perfectly good plans and causes the money that has been spent to be wasted because it wasn't seen through to fruition. So I'm looking to see if we can't generate that type of a stability so that things run a little more like a company that has a management team that is able to make commitments and sign contracts that can be carried out to fruition. And of course, also be able to hire a legal dream team and keep that team well funded and engaged across all the battlefields that are out there. But of course, the unbelievers, hey, if you don't believe in what we're doing, you certainly will not move your BitShares in, and therefore you'll be out in the desert where rain does not drop, and there's wailing and gnashing of teeth. Next.
We are looking at clue number 69.
Oh, next to the last one. The chain that is and was and is to come will be more appealing to enterprises and institutions because the quality of the block signing nodes will be higher and more accountable, with greater peak performance and the ability to map entire networks into specific jurisdictions where the laws and regulations that apply can be strictly controlled with confidence at a lower cost of operations. And it will have direct access to the markets and gateways and resources and innovations of the rest of the greater ecosystem. all without changing the chain that is and was, for the sake of the one that is to come. And all the believers said, amen. So that's quite a mouthful there. What I'm basically saying here is one of the benefits we get out of the need to separate who controls what software runs from who controls the hardware configuration in order to achieve jurisdictional management and the ability to place nodes into exotic locations at sea or in space or whatever, specific jurisdictions in different places, is we can put high-powered nodes and we can keep them close together for subchains, and therefore we can get rates that exceed what would otherwise be done. Right now, we may find half of BitShares nodes are sitting in the same building at Amazon, for all we know, but we're not getting any of the benefits of that kind of speed in terms of being able to reliably crank up the block rate or whatever. But when we start building these custom hardware configurations for the elected block signers to move on to, we now can optimize and tune the network configuration, maybe not even require transmissions to go out onto the general purpose internet at all. There are many other ways that we can connect the nodes wherever they may exist that will give us the ability to achieve even higher levels of performance by optimizing the hardware separately from the need to have elected people control which version of the software is running. So that's what's happening, and all without changing the chain that is and was. That's obviously BitShares, for the sake of the one that is to come, and that's EOS. Next.
Clue number 70. Awesome, awesome logo seen once again. And we're going to talk about the Sovereign Sky. Love this stuff.
Yes, Sovereign Sky is, of course, my science fiction theory or series of short stories that talks about the way I hope to see the future. And clue number 70 says that you have heard it said that blockchain should span every jurisdiction and be free from tyranny, or to be free from tyranny. But I say unto you, they should find the friendliest jurisdiction and stay there. BitShares EOS's big claim to fame is it will be jurisdictionally agile, meaning that you could create a smart contract and specify what jurisdiction it will execute in. If you don't care, then it can run on any of the block signers as they come up. If you would like to make sure it happens under the laws of Utah, where great legal tender laws are already established, free from interference of the federal government, then you could have a series of nodes in Utah that can handle your transactions, and your smart contract will not execute anywhere else but Utah. If you'd rather have it be in international waters on a cruise ship or a container ship, you can run under international law. And someday when it gets to space, it can run in space-based satellites where we would expect 24/7 operation in international jurisdictions. And of course, we've got plenty of examples of international jurisdictions already. Cruise ships, when they pull out of port, turn on their casinos. And when they're in international waters, people are free to gamble and have a good time. As soon as they pull into port, they have to shut down the casino and abide by the laws of the port that they've pulled into. Well, the same kind of thing you can imagine. A whole lot of business that is interfered with by the regulatory regimes that are, quite frankly, often designed to favor the incumbents and put up barriers to entry for new startups. There's plenty of international jurisdictions where your particular company could use the agile, jurisdictionally agile BitShares EOS chain to control exactly where your company is operating and no other place. And that is probably a key enabler to allow big industrial partners and institutional partners to come in with confidence. Remember, these big companies have to be compliant, okay? They've got too much at stake, and they're not going to adopt something that can't be compliant with regulatory certainty. So if you take an ordinary blockchain, like most of them out there that run anywhere, there's a potential for them to get in trouble for having acted on a processor existing in a country that doesn't like something they're doing. And at the very least, they have to go out and pay for lawyers to make sure they're compliant in every single jurisdiction everywhere. And that's very costly and could preclude a lot of those big companies from adopting the public blockchains that are out there. But BitShares EOS was allowed to come to them and say, what jurisdiction would you like your business to operate in? And it could be Grand Cayman, and it could be Ireland, and it could be the laws of Wyoming, which are attempting to be very friendly to blockchain type businesses. And some people may be crazy and want to operate in New York. I don't know why you'd want to do that. But if there's an elected node in New York and you want to operate in that overregulated environment, hey, go knock yourself out. All you have to do is set your smart contract in terms of what jurisdictions you will or won't operate in, and voila. So there is one of the big reasons why BitShares EOS is different from everything else out there, a very new, groundbreaking type of a system. And it's also why we had to design it so that the hardware is something that is provided by the trustees and not something that's provided by the witnesses, because the trustees may decide to deploy a node in space. And if they do, that's going to be custom space hardware. How are they going to give access to that hardware to an elected node? Well, once we do that sort of thing, we can start putting hardware in all the key jurisdictions where it needs to be and keep adding hardware based upon the demand for that particular jurisdiction. Keep putting up satellites if a lot of people want to operate in space. But to do that, obviously the average geek out there that's our valued witnesses can't put their own satellite up. So we got to have a way to allow that to happen. Or if you can't put nodes on a cruise ship or a container ship, there's just some things that are too hard. And so we needed a way to make that happen. So there we have come through with a great tour de force, far more than I'll be able to talk about at these other meetings. So you folks who have borne with us all this time have gotten far deeper understanding of what it all means than I could ever convey to people who want to prevent me from talking about the Bible, while I would have normally been sharing this out there in the open BitShares forums. But I am not going to tell them all this good stuff if I can't talk about my faith in that forum. So you who were tolerant of me being able to quote the Bible frequently, get all this additional information that will even exceed what I'm able to give in my 15-minute presentation slots. I will say one thing, that while all of this stuff has been done with me pretending to be a prophet, I've got to point out that I am not a prophet, not in the biblical sense. To be a prophet, the Lord has to specifically designate you as a prophet. And only such prophets that the Lord has named are going to be infallible in their prophecies. And we got this one verse that Moses wrote: "You may ask in your heart, how can we recognize a message that the Lord has not spoken?" When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, and the message does not come to pass or come true, that is a message the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken presumptuously. Do not be afraid of him. So just because I've been, for entertainment purposes, playing the role of prophet, do not think that I'm claiming that these are prophecies authorized by the Lord. This is just my little way of witnessing some of the things the Lord has said by putting it in context. And I've got to come back to say that everything I've done here has been for entertainment purposes only. It's science fiction. You can certainly see the science fiction components of it everywhere. Sometimes science fiction comes true. If you look at your cell phone right now, you see things that look an awful lot like you saw on Star Trek many decades ago, when we thought it was incredibly cool that someday we would have that kind of technology. And a lot of times, the ideas that are described on Star Trek or in a science fiction of some place inspire engineers to go out and do stuff. And since my role in this industry is not to issue coins or to do anything other than attempt to inspire people to do things. I sometimes will invest in somebody writing a piece of software, as I have done in this particular case with some other old timers who have been with us since the very first Guy Fawkes day. A number of us got together and said, let's create a little software here and make it available to the community. And if the community likes the kind of things that I've been saying and makes that happen, then your universe may match the universe that I've been describing fictitiously. But do not assume that that will happen, because I've got to stay here in my fictional universe in order to be safe from the fictional government that exists in this fictional universe. And your mileage may vary. Okay, Connie, I think we've finally worn everybody out, but I hope I gave a whole lot of new information just in time for the people here to feel like all that they've put up with for the past 6 weeks is something that is giving them greater insights to what might happen than they would have had if they had stayed outside of here and said, I can't stand to be someplace where people talk about offensive things like Jesus Christ.
You did a great job. Yeah, there were some people that came in going, what the kind of attitude? And I said, hey, you haven't been watching this incredible, profound series, so, please show some respect. My gosh, RESPECT. That lady said it best before she passed on, Aretha, and then she's right in all ways. Show that. No matter what, always start with that first, and then you won't, get lost in the, bully crowd that, will have you being deleted from different shows and being moved over to different telegrams to where everybody can be friendly to each other. I mean, when you have to see the title of a telegram that says BitShares for nice people, you got to wonder, things that make you say, So thank you for that, Stan. Great job. Are there more clues to come, or is that it?
Nope, that's it. What we now do is go into a new mode of what I'll call excerpts from my sci-fi series, Sovereign Sky. And in that sci-fi series is going to be snippets of what might ultimately make its way into a complete script for a complete movie or a complete book. I'm going to jump around and just be making samples of it, like you might imagine somebody who starts writing a book and wants to put enough of it together that he can get a contract to go publish a book. So I'll be releasing little snippets as we go along that talk about things that are happening in my fictional universe, and may or may not have, but you will at least get the concepts and the ideas I want to share, and hopefully that will have some influence. Keep in mind, the name GodFather of BitShares simply refers to a person who is influential in a community. And I aim to be influential. I don't aim to run the community. In fact, I have no control over what is done in BitShares, nor will I have control in anything that comes out of the things we've been talking about tonight, other than as a person who occupies an elected office, should that happen.
All right. Okay. You heard it from the Godfather himself. Now, we do have a lot of questions. If you're just now tuning in, it's Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis, and this is Crypto Connie Tuesday. What is a Blue Rocker? It is someone in the know. And if you are a subscriber here to Blue Rock Talk, you are in the know. And to claim that you are a Blue Rocker and you are in the know, we do just a little symbol like this. It is not Spock, that's Spock. But, however, you can incorporate live long and prosper in there too, because I think we're all Spock lovers. So, Spock, Blue Rocker. Spock, Blue Rocker. All right. Just means you're in the know, and you can say hi to other Blue Rockers as the group and the community grows. Tonight, Crypto Connie Tuesday. Those of you that want to donate, please do it with my favorite cryptos in the description down below. If you do it with all the other fan funding and all the other stuff, then somebody else gets 3% or something else of that. So instead, put it all to Blue Rock Talk, all to the show, and thank you for those that do that. If you want to ask a question, please do it in all caps. I'm going to go over here and check it out. We are broadcasting on Twitter, Facebook, DLive, and YouTube. I am looking at the DLive live chat and the YouTube live chat. Sometimes I'll slip into the Facebook's ones, but it's not easy, so I hope that you guys come over here to do that. Some of you have asked questions a long time ago, and as you can tell, the live chat has really, kind of moved on. So if you need to go ahead and ask that once again in all caps, go ahead and feel free to do that. Please do that, because I don't want to miss out on your questions. So Betty A, hey there, Betty. She says, please go back up. So Betty, if you can, for me, just cut and paste and put it back again. That'd be a whole lot easier. I'll try to do it that way, too. I saw yours up there a long time ago. All right, so let's see what we can do here. Da, 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 da. John Jones giving a comment of another great show, Stan. Yay! And by the way, I wanted to say pigs in space. I didn't get to do it at the time that you said it, but that's right. What the? Some of you will get that. Please let us know who does. And some of you will go, they will truly be doing this, right, Stan?
Yeah, what?
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Let me go back up here. Okay, so Betty A. So how do I start from zero? Do I go to Block first? Is that a wallet? Where can I buy with credit card?
Well, there's a lot of questions about that. Let's see. First off, Block First, you probably meant Block.one, which is the company that developed EOS. It's the company that Dan Larimer works for right now. And so it is the one that just completed raising an awful lot of money that they're using to build out the ecosystem in 1,000 different ways. So you're talking about going to their website, and they're going to have tons of options for you. Lots of independent companies are talking about providing different things. We do have at Quintric something in the pipeline that will give you a credit card, debit card type functionality. So that's a possibility. And generally, it's very hard to find someone who will let you buy using a credit card because of something called clawback. They take your credit card, you go ahead and receive a Bitcoin or whatever, and then you turn around and tell the credit card company, I want my money back. They give you the money back, and you now have a Bitcoin and your money, and no way to get that Bitcoin back to the person who gave it to you. So most people do not want to take the risk that credit card companies are going to do that to you. Now, once you get into the system where you own different kinds of digital currencies, those can be traded in such a way that for example, a decentralized exchange like BitShares would allow you to swap one type of coin for another without the possibility of there being a clawback event. So everybody gets treated fairly. And that's the biggest problem we have right now with credit cards. I think Coinbase may provide a certain amount of that, but in general, that's not something that you're going to find a lot of places for that reason.
Okay, well, if you scoot over a little bit, it might help me center you there better. A little center you better. Thank you very much. I'm trying to make you look good. Okay, so you have crickets in the background. I've got Batman going back to your crickets and singing along with them the entire show. So, all right. Halzat DCC is asking, Stan, what do you expect to see this next 12 months? Boom, bust, or sideways?
Yes.
That's it? Yes. All right.
Yeah. All of of those things are happening. We're in a very complicated ecosystem. We have governments of the world taking a very active role, some might say ham-fisted role, and that can certainly shake things up. We have big players wanting to come into the industry. One of them might actually get an ETF or something going, which would generate booms. There are technological surprises that are coming down that could generate a lot of enthusiasm. New players that know how to market it to the masses coming in, who may, any one of them may suddenly come up with the perfect formula for getting the masses to adopt. So a whole lot of things that can happen, and they can swing it one way or the other. And on individual assets of different types could have completely different experiences, depending on whether they're unfairly targeted for destruction or whether they are moved into the blessed group that has managed to be given a pass on what's happening. And that appears to be right now highly arbitrary, and therefore I wouldn't want to make a prediction for any single case.
He asked after that, move BitShares from where to where? You mentioned that in Clue 61. I don't have the clues to bring up for you, but you had mentioned moving BitShares. So moving BitShares from where to where? Would you remember that?
Yeah, it's real simple. We have a BitShares chain, that's the current one, and we have the new EOS clone that is going to be integrated loosely at first, and then hopefully, if the community votes for it, to the point where they're seamless and totally decentralized in how they work. But initially, there'll be two completely separate chains with a gateway between them. You've seen lots of examples of gateways right now. Certainly, a good example, OpenLedger has the ability for you to deposit a Bitcoin. They'll hold the Bitcoin for you and put a open.bitcoin onto the BitShares network that you can trade. And when you want to cash out, swap it back, and they give you the real Bitcoin back. It works an awful lot like a poker chip, doesn't it? You go into the casino, and you give the casino a $100 bill, and you get some chips, and you play all night, and then you come back and cash out. And so that's the whole concept. Well, if you were to put one of those utilities between two chains, such that somebody who is a trusted multi-signature account of trusted members of the community are going to say, well, we will issue a coin on the new chain for every one you take and put in escrow, take out of circulation on the old chain, such that the total number of coins remains constant in terms of between the two chains. It looks to the outsider like the coin simply moved across from one chain to another. And when you look at what EOS is doing with its cross-chain communication plans, eventually we'll get to the point where all the tokens can be moved seamlessly, flowing back and forth between many chains. We'll be platform independent. We're trying to make the first baby steps to platform independence. And that will be done by saying, at the very early stages, maybe November 5th in my universe, you would have the ability to take any of the assets on the BitShares network and move them over onto the other chain. So to get people to try that and test out that and gain confidence in it, we're saying, hey, that's who we'll give all the coins to. People who move a BitShare onto the new one will be able to get some of the new coins that are happening. People who don't want to bother with it, why should we give them free coins, right? But people who like the idea and want to move across can do so. And of course, part of what they're doing when they do that is the coins that they left behind that are taken out in escrow are proxied to vote for projects that go along with further integration. So as a way of rewarding people who proxy their vote to vote for things that advance the cause of this hybrid chain, that's who is going to get compensated by getting the free tokens for having done that relatively easy job. And it accomplishes the other purpose of giving people confidence in how an incentive to try it. And there's that particular rainfall continues on for 40 fortnights before the last of the RAM is given out. And so that's 1.5 years of people getting comfortable with the chain if they choose to stay there and collect all the goodies that they could get. And if you're just a holder, this is primary rewarding holders, then what you have done is locked up your BitShares for that whole time, collected all your free tokens, and those have been taken out of circulation. So that means the number of available BitShares still in circulation over on the BitShares side has gone down. That benefits the people even that stayed out, because now there's fewer BitShares. So supply and demand says that should be good for the value. If a whole lot of them are taken out of circulation and sitting over there participating in the rainfall.
So we can stay in the BitShares wallet, or we can choose to go into the EOS BitShares wallet.
Yeah, there will be a wallet that's, initially it'll be a fairly simple wallet that allows you to access and manipulate your coins over on the BIOS side. But on the BitShares side, you just use your ordinary BitShares wallet. And, there'll be instructions that tell you how to do it. It's basically you would send, in fact, it would work an awful lot like block trades. One of the guys that's actually building this is Dan Notstein. He's been with Cryptonomics as a shareholder and a developer since the beginning of BitShares time. He was around on the first Guy Fawkes Day. And his team is the one that's doing the technology development behind this. So we got one of the premium best teams out there developing the software.
Block Trades is the one that does Steam it, right?
Well, Dan Notstein runs Block Trades, which is an exchange, a very popular exchange, blocktrades.us, that is a super simple interface. You have two pull-down menus. You say, here's the coin I want to send in, here's the coin I want to get back. Send coins, they come back. Okay,
right.
That same kind of technology is what's going to be powering the gateway between these two chains initially. And Dan's only role in this is as a software developer with long-term expertise in what's going on, and then that technology is made available to the BitShares community, and allows us to have the ability to, every time Dan Larimer announces some new goodie over on the EOS main chain, BitShares has the ability to get that same day. So that should silence the people that are saying, we're going to die! No,
the sky is falling.
Yeah, we're going to have a completely new use case that is going to benefit from everything they think up over at Block One, and provide new added value on a completely different type of chain than their solution, which is focused on general purpose global operations.
Okay, so but when I'm over at Steemit and I change things or move it around, that's block trades that I'm using.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Steemit, and BitShares, a number of BitShares assets, and some of the popular coins are all on there. Yeah, but
so easy.
And it's true that Dan has a long history of working on some of the biggest projects in the T-Post universe.
Go Dan.
So I'm so grateful that he signed up to actually do the development of all this stuff. But once again, he's not going to operate the system. That will be turned over to a decentralized operations. But he is building it for us and maybe continuing to support it under contract to the trustee.
You started talking in unison to the cricket. You were going with the beat, the cadence.
Boy, there's nothing better than falling asleep to cricket music.
The cadence of the cricket. Woo! Yeah, that's good stuff. Okay, so Ms. Cavs fan says, okay, will the new chain have 3.6 billion tokens similar to BitShare?
Yeah, one for one. 100% of them will be given to the holders of BitShares over an extended period of time, but only to those that are participating, and the ones that are locked up in escrow or in the reserve fund will be in the trust fund over on the other thing. The only difference between that is the form of governance in terms of how that fund is managed. we want to go back to a traditionally fiduciarily responsible group of managers of that trust, and those managers will be elected the way the SEC commissioners are elected. Every year a new one will rotate in and out, so we'll get some long-term stability on what policy is, and hopefully that'll be an improvement over the whimsical way that it works on BitShares. Not that there's anything wrong with BitShares.
There's anything wrong with it.
But we've long recognized that to get that degree of democracy on the BitShares side came at a cost in terms of what could be done, and may have actually held BitShares back. I want to try something different on this new one.
All right. It's going to be very user-friendly, correct?
Well, we always say that, and it never starts out that way. But certainly, as it becomes more popular and more people start developing for it, then you get that kind of benefit. Certainly one of the things that the trustees could decide to do with their trust, which is an endowment like a university endowment, is to sponsor better services and better user experience and so on.
What comes first, the chicken or the egg? You had said, hey, as time goes on, we can work that way, but it will grow. If it's user-friendly, it will grow instantly because it's user-friendly. People like me, it's so hard to get into it. We're like, now I'll keep trying. I'm determined. I'm learning as much as I can and moving forward, so I'm going to keep trying and beg for help along the way. Or other people will come in and go, whatever, I can't do it. So the user-friendly at the beginning, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? If it's user-friendly at the beginning, you're going to grow bigger. That's how I look at it. Those of you who agree, put it in the live chat.
I agree with you. On the other hand, that's not my motivation. My motivation is to build something that will be of interest to industrial and institutional users. I want to attract big companies. So I want to give them something that allows them to comply with the set of regulations that they choose to comply with, and to give them high quality high-performance hardware on which to run. So I'm going after what I have needed. As we started out in this early thing, talking at the very beginning about the new companies we're forming. That's what I do, and what I've noticed that I need when I go into these boardrooms is an answer to the question of why BitShares when there's EOS. Okay, and once I explain to them about BitShares EOS, then those concerns go away, and that's the reason I want to see this developed, because I think that those companies will bring their customers, millions of customers, to this platform, and each of them will have their own use case with their own user interface that, if they're smart, being a big company, had better be user-friendly. Right. But nobody out there at the consumer level is going to know what BitShares EOS is. Okay, it's not something that's trying to market itself to the average investor. I'm going after big companies who need a certain quality of professional blockchain services, and if we can get that going, then it will drive demand to BitShares, which has now become a multi-chain asset.
Excellent, excellent. However, for the little consumers here, that is the biggest audience of all out there. Mm-hmm. It's good that they hear this, because they jump right in, and learn it. Mm-hmm. They're going to be ahead of the game. They're going to jump in aboard with all those big companies that you're talking with. You know what I'm saying, right? Am I wrong there?
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's interested in digging into advancements that are coming, then great, this information is useful to you.
Yeah.
Most people are going to wind up using the system. They're not even going to know BitShares under the hood. Right now, can you tell me who makes the capacitors that are next to the spark plugs in your Ford or Chevy car, right? You don't know who
actually, I know one of the daughters of one of the guys, and she's mega rich. She's loaded. So can't remember the names of all that, but anyway, that's from being in the car business there for a while, the racing business. That's where you learn all that kind of stuff. So let's go back to the questions here. But I get what you're saying, absolutely. But you see what I'm saying too, right? I mean, like.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying the responsibility for making it user friendly to the masses is the people who build on top of the platform.
On top of it.
Yeah, and that's going to be different for what the nature of the masses are. And all those use cases need their own user interface, which may not look like our reference wallet at all.
Gotcha. Love it. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. All right, Brad Mulder. Stan, what more can you tell us about the satellite tech?
A lot.
And the crickets get louder.
All in good time, my pretty.
My pretty. Miss Cavs fans, any hints to companies joining BIOS? BIOS. Biatch. What? Tell me what? What?
In my understanding, EOS is pronounced EOS, so therefore BIOS would be pronounced BIOS.
Yeah. Okay. So, any hints to companies joining BIOS?
Well, one of the things that we want to do is not get ahead of ourselves. We certainly don't want to say anything before it comes true. And keep in mind, the last time we were talking about a lot of companies joining, we had this big Arise Bank event that chased a lot of them off. And we don't want to get into the mode of exposing companies to that. But a lot of them, like I say, will start using this technology. May not even make an announcement that they're on the platform, but maybe on their website somewhere you'd see a tiny little thing powered by BitShares, but yet the average user would not have any idea that these big companies are actually using it. But the people who are interested in holding the BitShares token would be pleased to see the uptick in the number of the amount of demand for that particular asset.
So the answer is no hints. I love it. Okay.
Well, there will be times. There will be times when it's time to talk about some particular company, but we want to spread it out, right? We don't want to blow all our gunpowder at one time.
That's right.
The idea of shooting off all your gunpowder at Guy Fawkes Day has been tried before.
Yes. Yes. That would be a whole other show to explain all that again. Or you can go back in time. We have that show archived. Let's see. Stan deals, this is Betty A. Stan deals in the millions while I deal in the tens. How blessed we are to have access to the top. Absolutely. Let's see. BIOS with an E. Yes. Okay. I got to go back to some of these questions here. We are broadcasting on DLive, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter with Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis, or Blue Rock Talk or Connie Willis, one of the platforms. You are watching Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis, and it's Crypto Connie Tuesday. Stan Larimer, the godfather of BitShares, along with Connie Willis here, Crypto Connie tonight. And we are taking your questions now. Please put them in all caps so I can find them. We finished off the clues from Stan. Isn't there Blues Clues out there, right? Isn't that with that big dog? I keep thinking that. Stan's Blues Clues. And it is Blue Rock Talk, so I guess that's where I'm pulling it all together there. You have grandkids. You've probably seen Blues Clues, right?
No, I'm afraid that's a man's got to know his limitations. That's all I can say.
You must have skipped a generation, or your grandkids didn't want to see them. Let's see. Let me go back onto some of these questions in the back. So you think EOS finesse? It's going to be hard here to say these. Some of these words in the crypto world are not easy to say. When I was a kid, I had the braces on the front. You know how most people have them on the front. I had them on the inside, and you had to relearn how to use your tongue, and you had to pull it back because there was so much space in there, or no longer space. So at one point, it got really hard to say your S's and your F's and your ths. So it still haunts me along the way. So A.A. Arnold asked, a hard one for me. So you think EOS Finex, agree that you know what that word is that I'm saying? will be a legitimate competitor to BitShares.
Well, yes. I mean, obviously it's a big company, and whatever they do is going to have a lot of people interested in it. They can bring liquidity to it from their existing customers. So obviously you've got to take them seriously. I'm not at all intimidated by such things because in general, we're blazing entirely new use cases they haven't even thought of. And so, you know, it will do what it does. And to the extent that it brings attention to the greater EOS ecosystem, then I welcome it.
Okay, let's get some more questions here. I'm trying to hit all the locations that we have. And I just have to say once again, I had a great time meeting you and Michael X in person. It was so much more fun. We got to play, we got to work, we got to, you know, enjoy wonderful food and created new friendships and very profound conversations. And that's what I'm all about, right? Blue Rock Talk is Earth's most interesting conversations. That love and that passion of mine is where Blue Rock Talk came from. So we actually had a dinner with Quintric and the Rogue team, as well as the owner of the home, Charles. I don't know if he wants to be mentioned or not, and Cryptonomics and Blue Rock Talk. And it was, I don't think we even talked about crypto at that point. I think we talked about some politics, but more about life after death. Well, you say what else that we talked about. It's just totally profound. And you had a ball. I sat next to Stan. He had a great time.
You know, I of course love to talk about issues of faith, and everybody was freely sharing their faith with everybody else at the table in a free conversation where nobody felt inhibited at all. You don't know how well. I suppose most of you do know. That's normally a banned topic at an event like that. To have that group of people sitting around the table sharing their thoughts, all very extremely accomplished and intelligent people, makes you wonder, you know, when people like to sit there and say that they don't believe in spiritual things, how come so many accomplished and intelligent people do? You know, it's too easy a statement to say, I'm too smart to fall for religious things. We would probably say the opposite.
Well, it was a great time. It was a lot of fun, and you know, I'm scrolling through all the questions, and I think we pretty much covered them. I know a lot of them I probably didn't get to. I'm just looking at the time. I'm thinking of Stan. I know he flew in from the big conference with what was it? UMPA. Can you describe that for me? That's with Quintric.
Yeah, UPMA is the one of two parent companies. Cryptonomics is the other. We got together, UPH, and they run the depository in Salt Lake City, at which all the Quintric coins are stored, and we teamed together to create Quintric. So we were invited to attend their board meeting and tell everybody about our thoughts. We were keynote speakers at the main shareholder meeting, and then went to the board after that and answered the board's questions about all this stuff. So it was a really nice way to get to know the other parent company.
Yeah, and you actually spoke at the conference, correct, or that meeting?
Yes, Michael and I both did. Michael talked about Quintric, and I talked about things we talked about tonight.
And you folks will meet Michael X. If you haven't already, he's been on here before, there's no question about it. But you'll hear and see more of him because he wanted to, doggone it, and that's okay because he is part of Cryptonomics and a big part of the BitShares dynasty. So it was great to meet Quintric and the people behind it. It was great to hang out with the Rogue guys who you're going to learn more about. In fact, the crypto school down below, hit that link, and you'll learn more about how you can take basic classes for free, but you can also learn how to get deeper into the crypto world and actually go into their trading room. So the link is down below. And the Quintric link as well is down below that I have for you. So all sorts of neat things. And if you don't see it right now, you'll see it again after it archives up, because we're about to close out the show and say thank you to you, Stan. Any last words? Anything else to expect in the coming week?
No, just pointing out to you that everything I'm talking about is talking about my fictitious view of the world. Do not assume that anything I'm talking about applies to the world you live in. Other people may watch what I say here and cause things to happen in your world. And if so, you heard it here first.
His disclaimers are awesome. So, Stan, thanks again for the week. A little...
All right.
Had so much fun with you. Thanks for making sure that I got up the mountainside and over the edge of the ridge there. Honestly, it was earlier in the morning to me. The sun was beating down. It was hard on me. I was like just burning up, and I walked maybe 10 feet. He held my bag, and I walked up another 10 feet, and he made sure that I was okay and survived. So thank you, Stan.
I noticed you didn't publish the picture of you collapsed on the rug when you get back up.
That's coming. That's coming. I will put together all the videos that we have and the pictures so that you guys will see our adventures outside. Where it was really where I really call it Blue Rockers Out and About. So that'll be on that playlist of Blue Rockers Out and About, because that's what we were doing. And let me tell you, Michael X is just bouncing around like some little cartoon character, man. He can like run and jump, and you leave him one area and then he shows up in a whole other area. Amazing. And his mind is just
especially I've never seen anybody film a video selfie of him doing rock climbing. I mean, I'm not sure what he was hanging on with while he was doing that, but we do have videos of him hanging off a cliff that he personally took.
He's amazing. I'm telling you, it's unreal. I'm still flabbergasted about it. So, Stan, thank you very much for being here.
Okay, take care.
All right, Stan Larimer, the godfather of BitShares, here on Crypto Connie Tuesday, a part of Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis, Earth's most interesting conversations, including people, places, and things. And those other things are on other nights like Bigfoot Friday, Far Out Thursday, Wasted Wednesdays to come, and Stan's Bible Lecture as well on Sunday. That's 2 p.m. Everything else is 9 p.m. Eastern. And you never know what may happen along the way, because breaking news or just fun situations. I am going to be doing my tower garden so you guys can watch the plants, the food that I eat in the future, and that I will share with other people, because I see that it's going to be a blossom of produce. And I like that. And a lot of other people also claim that once you start a tower garden or any hydrogenics when it comes to the gardening, that you end up sharing a lot of it, because all of a sudden it just poof, you have all this food. And so when that does happen, it just makes you wonder, in the world, we can grow. We can grow things. We can help each other out, and we can share. And we waste so much food. It just drives me crazy that anybody would be starving. And so I hope that we can change the world in that aspect as well. And I know that there's some crypto folk out there that are working on that. And, we'll learn more about that on Crypto Connie with some of the other people and some of the other coins out there of what they're doing. So let me just take a look if there was any other thing to show you before we did go. And I'll show you this one real quick, because I just think it's a fun one. Because the thing about Blue Rock Talk, and the thing about what I've learned with Cryptonomics, the company that Michael and Stan head, is that it's all about, and my whole entire world is, it's all about relationships. And over this past week, these three, even though I look really funky and terrible in that picture, I do want you to see that there's Michael X, there's Stan Larimer, and myself. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And the relationships, that's what it's all about. And gosh, it was just so fun. Had a great time with them. And I hope that you guys get to have as much fun as I do with people like that. That's why I'm sharing them here with you. And I am very happy to be a part of their team and their players and their people and all the fun that we have together. So that's it. It gets all mushy and all crazy, you know, but it's the way it is. All right, so let me throw out my little goodbye here. Let me find it. And here we go. All right, everybody, take care. Have a safe and happy rest of the day. And we will talk to you soon here on Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis. More to come always.